Okay, this will be the first video for the rotating base assembly. We're going to actually do this in three parts. The first thing we're going to focus in on is the ball bearing, the spacer, and the base plate. That'll be where we start, and we'll do that all the way through the drawing on this one before we go on to the next two subsequent videos that will show how to put the other parts together. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, we're at our home page in our Schoology account. If you look down through the home page, you'll see towards the bottom a folder for assemblies. And within those folders, or this folder, you'll see at the very bottom a rotating base assembly. And what I want to start with, we are going to work first the base, the spacer, and the ball bearing. So I'm going to open this PDF file. And again, I don't like it on the small screen, so I'm going to go ahead and do a full download on this. Say open with Adobe Acrobat Reader and say OK. Now I have it full screen here. Now this is pretty straightforward, okay? I'm going to start with the ball bearing, then I'm going to go to the spacer, and I'm going to finish with the base. These are all basically one or two step parts. So with the ball bearing, what I'm going to do is start on the front plane, and essentially all I'm going to do is create, right at the origin, I'm going to create a half circle, and then we're going to revolve it around the midline. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into practice. So going into my SOLIDWORKS, I'm going to start a new part. It's going to be in metric. I'm going to say OK. Now again, I'm going to go on the front plane, turning on my sketch tools. I'm going to draw a line just above the origin and then just below. I want to make sure this line is attached. So I'm going to add a relationship between the line and the origin to make sure that we are coincident. I'll go ahead at this point. I'm going to add a tangent arc from this corner here to this corner here. Excuse me, vertex. All right, so from here, I got to look at some dimensions. So I'm coming back over my PDF file. I see that the radius of this is 3.5. So I will go here and create a radius of 3.5. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change this to one decimal place, and that's what I'm looking at here. Now, I also want to make sure that this ball is perfectly in the middle of this origin. So I'm going to look for the midpoint of this line, which is right here. I did that by hovering on the line. Hold my control key, click on that origin, and let's go ahead and make those coincident. And by doing that now, all my planes are perfectly in the middle of this ball. And that's exactly what I want to have happen. So when I do my assembly, it makes it a little bit easier. Now from here, I'm going to go to my features, revolve boss base, and for the axis of revolution, I'm going to pick the vertical line. And now I have a sphere. Hit your check mark. And now let's go ahead and add our material. So the material for this part will be a 316L stainless steel. So going into my material, not specified, right click, edit material, and sliding down through your steels. This will be right below the 4340. So there's an AISI type 316L stainless steel. Apply, close. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick save on this. There's nothing else to do but save as. I'm going to go ahead and save this, in this case, to my desktop. You should be saving it to your H drive. I'm going to call this bearing, whoops, all caps. I want you to save it with underscore your last name. At this point, go ahead and do your evaluate and your mass properties, and you should see that the bearing is weighing at 1.44 grams. You can either write that down or you can print your mass properties. It's up to you. I'm going to close out of this now. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start on the next part, which in this case will be the spacer. So if you look at the spacer, I'm just going to go from a top plane, and I'm just going to draw two simple circles, one at 4 and one at 7, and then I'm going to extrude those two circles up at 6.8. So putting that into action, I'm going to start with a file new, metric, OK, top plane, new sketch. I'm going to draw two circles. The outside circle will have a diameter of 7. The inside circle will have a diameter of 4. Verify that one more time, and that is correct. Now from here, I'm going to go to my features, extruded boss base, and I'm going to extrude this 6.8 millimeters. Okay, verify that is correct. It is. And I'm going to hit my check mark. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add a 1350 aluminum alloy to this. So I'm going to take and compress my steel, expand my aluminum alloys, and look for the 1350 alloy. Apply and close. I'm going to go to the top of my design tree and right click, hit the beach ball, left click the silver ball, and I'm just going to add kind of a reddish color to it. So I'm going to go with a little bit darker red. I think I'll go with that one right there. Again, color is your choice. Hit my check mark. I'm going to do a file save as, and I'm going to call this spacer, underscore my last name, and hit enter. Go to my evaluate tab, mass properties. I see this weighs 0.48 grams, very light. Okay. I'm going to say if you want to print this or write this down, you can. At that point, go ahead and close this out, and we're now ready to go to the third and final part for this drawing. So I'm looking at the base. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, and I'm looking at this, and it looks like basically what we're going to do is I'm going to start with a circle on the top plane, 2 circles. I'm going to extrude those circles at a thickness of 5.8. And then I'm going to come back onto this top surface, draw 2 subsequent more circles, and I'm going to cut those down at 3.5 millimeters. I'll finish off by adding in these holes. And actually, I'll add the holes in my top sketch. So I'm going to try to do this in 2 steps. So I'm going to go here to SOLIDWORKS, do a file new, metric, OK, and start on the top plane. New sketch, I'm going to draw 2 circles. Looking at my dimensions, the outside circle will be 120, the inside circle will be 30. So out here, I'm going to do 120, inside circle at 30. Okay, now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw one little circle up here and pattern it around. Okay, so I have 6 circles with a diameter 4, but they're on a 100 diameter center line. CL is for center line circle. So what I'm going to do is come back to SOLIDWORKS here. Sorry, go back to my drawing. I'm going to draw one more circle from the center out, but this time I'm going to make it 4 constructions, so SOLIDWORKS does not see this or recognize it. This is only for construction. I'm going to go ahead and dimension this circle to a diameter of 100. That is that center line circle. I'm now going to go ahead and attach a circle right here at this quadrant. That's the diamond. I'm going to dimension that circle to a diameter of 4. Now going back to what we did earlier this year, I'm going to go back into my sketch patterns, and I'm going to specifically go to circular sketch pattern. So in the circular pattern, we have to start by picking a spin point for the pattern to occur. So highlighting this first box, I'm going to highlight the origin as my circular pattern area. I wanted to go 360 degrees of equal spacing, but I want 6 of these. And then under entities to pattern, I left click inside the box and I pick this small circle. When I see the pattern that I want, I hit my check mark, and now I have my 6 circles. Now you can go through and try to identify and get these all fully defined. Usually when I'm here, I'm going to keep the pattern as is, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out at 5.8 millimeters. So I'm going to go up here to my features, extruded boss base, and I'm going to go 5.8 millimeters and hit my check mark. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my material on here so I can see this a little better. We're going to do a 304 steel. So I'm going to right click and edit. I'm going to go to AISI 304, apply, and close. So I've got the basic shape. So if we're looking at this, I've got all this basic shape with the holes. The only thing I have to add in is this one little recess cut. And I'm going to do that by clicking on the top surface and drawing 2 more circles. So highlighting this top surface, I'll go to Sketch, Spacebar, Normal to, turn on my Circle tool, and draw 2 circles, one smaller, one a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to dimension the bigger circle is going to be at 69 and the small circle at 55. So turning on my smart dimension, I will do the inside circle at 55, the larger circle at 69. Now with those two done and fully defined, I will now go to features, and I'm going to rotate so you can see this, extruded cut, and I'm going to cut this down 3.5 millimeters. So I'm going to go 3.5 in this box and hit my check mark. And now my piece is done. So I want to do a quick file save as. I'm going to name this base underscore my last name. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my mass properties. This one is 450.30 grams. Okay, so again, if you want to write that down, please do, or you may print this and return it back to your desk. Now, with all three parts done, we're going to go ahead and finish this up by completing this drawing. This is nothing more than a GHS metric border. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with a GHS metric by going into my here and starting a new file, GHS metric, and OK. Now I'm going to kind of look at this right here. I'm going to slide this over to my other screen for just a moment so I can bring this in the same way. I'm going to start with the base by double clicking. I'm going to start with a front view. I'm going to start with a preview and hidden lines on. Okay, so I'm going to start again with the front view going in towards the upper left middle, pull straight up, pull to an isometric, and hit my check mark. Now looking at the drawing, what we're going to see here is that there is a view that's going to be in between here. That is not a right side view. That view is going to be a section view. So what I'd like to do is go to my View Layout tab, Section View, and this will be a vertical section. So I'm going to take this first box right here, vertical, and I'm just going to take and attach right here to the center of the circle and hit my check mark. I'm going to move to the right and left click. Hit my check mark. I'll take this and drop this down a little bit, and now there is my section view. I'll also come in here and add color, do a dragging box, and delete. Now that I have all my views for the base, I'm going to go ahead and add in the bearing next. So I'm going to double click the bearing. I'm going to bring a front view in with hidden lines on, and this one is going to be at a scale of 2:1. 2:1. I'm going to go ahead and pan down here a little bit. I'm going to start in this left-hand corner, left click, pull straight up, left click, and pull an isometric. Yes, they all look the same. It's okay. Hit escape. Now, I'm also getting rid of this text box that was for the metric. I'm going to hit delete there and slide the metric back down to this corner. I'm going to come back up to this right here. I'm going to add color, get rid of that black line. And before I forget anything, I'm going to go ahead into my annotation and add 2 center marks. Actually, I'm going to delete this center line, turn on my center mark tool, and click on these 2 circles here. Hit my check mark, and now these views are ready to be dimensioned. So last thing I'm going to add in over here to the right is going to be the spacer. So going back to View Layout, Model View, double click Spacer, start with a front view, a preview, and also make the scale on this one 2:1. I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring a front view, a top view, and an isometric view, and hit escape. I'm going to go ahead and add color to my isometric, highlight and get rid of the black line. And then at this point, I have all the views on my paper. So now what I'm going to do is take the quick shortcut and go to View Layout and hit, Annotation, Model Items. Make sure I hit for the source entire model, import it into all views. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit my check mark. And now what I have to do is go in here and make some fixes. So in a couple cases, I'm going to have to actually delete some of these and move them to other spots. So in this case here, I'm going to delete this one off, add on this one here, flip the arrowhead to the inside, and then I'm going to right click and display as radius. None document 0.1. Oops, got to right click again, display as radius. Actually, in this case, I'm going to have to get out of my tool to do this because now I have to right click and go to display options, display as radius. We can find an adjustment there. I'm going to come down to the one right below, click right here. I get a diameter 7. All I'm going to do is put my cursor in front of it, capital S. Okay, the S stands for sphere, so they know it's spherical. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead over to the PDF file. Okay, so I'll bring this back over so you can see what I'm doing. I'm now going to copy that note and do a Control C. Come into my drawing here, add a note below my bearing here, and do a Control V. Make sure it's centered, that the top line right here is bold and underlined. And then right here, you're going to type in, I believe it's 1.44 grams. Hit escape and adjust this as necessary. Now in this case, I'm going to slide some things around. I'm going to kind of make some more space this way and move my bearing a little bit more over. So this is kind of out of the way. That looks good. Coming back over to this view here, I have my 7, my 4, and my 6.8. So I'm going to come back this way. This 7 should turn into a 6.8. Flip the arrows to the inside. You'll see on my screen potentially I have what I call a ghost image here. When I save and close and reopen, it will go away. Okay, on this side over here, I'm looking at the 4 and the 7. I'm going to slide these over this way. So there's 7 and the 4 will go here. With the 4, I'm going to type in over to the left through all and readjust. So now this view is complete. So again, I'm going to slide these over a little bit further and this ball over just a little bit further. And then I'm going to take my views right here and slide these over a little further. Sorry, I'm getting some like extra things popping on my screen. All right, now with that done, I'm going to take and over to my PDF file. I'm going to copy this spacer note with a drag and a Control C. Come back over here to my SOLIDWORKS, turn on my note tool, and do a Control V. Highlight that top line, underline, and I believe this one was like 0.42 grams. As you can see, I'm going to have to move some things around, so I'm going to bring this in a little bit tighter and take my spacer and slide it over a little bit more. I may have to, nope, that's about right there. Okay, that looks okay right there. Go ahead and slide this down just a little bit more, slide that up there a little bit more, and that looks good to me. Now, those two views are done. So let's go up here, and as you can see, a lot of our dimensions got thrown over to this one side. So we're going to have to do a lot of moving here. So if I look over here at this view, most of those dimensions are going to end up being on here. Okay, so I'm going to do a lot of moving here, a lot of deleting. So I'm going to go ahead and start by getting this one here. I'm going to go up. I'm going to type that with a none document to a 0.1. Okay, then I'm going to start adding in some dimensions on the circles. So I have a 120, I have my 69 and 55. So I'm going to go 120, and I like to keep mine kind of close like that and adjust. I have a 69 here. I have my 55 down here, and I have my 30 through all here. Okay, now I'm going to add this note on here. So I'm going to dimension one circle, and I'm going to have to type the rest. In the meantime, I'm going to take this right here and change it from 4 to a 0.1 here to a 3.5. I'm going to take the section AA and move it down, slide this up a little bit closer, and adjust. All the rest of these dimensions I will be deleting off. As so. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a dimension onto this circle. And it's just going to give me a diameter 4. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and type this entire node in. So 6 by diameter 4 through all on a 100 circle. Okay, so in this case, I put my cursor in front, 6 space X, behind through all, enter on a diameter symbol over here to the left, 100 space CL circle, and hit your check mark. Now obviously I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit like so. I can move my numbers around as necessary to create some space, so I have plenty of space for each piece. Bring the through all up a little bit more, and now all of these dimensions are done. My last step here is to add in a note, create a little more space, bring this down. I will go to my PDF file, highlight the base, control copy, bring this back up and in with my note tool, and do a control V. Highlight the word base and do an underline. Change your grams, I believe it was 450.30 grams, and hit escape. Last but not least, changing our page number. This will be 3 of 3. So I'm going to double click the 1, make that a 3. Highlight this one down here when it turns orange, double click, that will be page 3 of 3. First initial last name on your drawn by, today's date will be 2/6 of 20. And actually I'm going to make that look a little bit better. I'm going to go 02/06 of 20. Period is whatever your period is. Scale will be, and we'll change this font size from 12 to 10 as indicated. That means is we had to have these in our notes. Take that and slide it right below. The title for this one is going to be Base, Spacer, and Ball Bearing. So I'm going to go in here and double click my SOLIDWORKS. Base, comma, spacer, and symbol, ball, bearing. Okay, misspelled, I forgot the I. And then I'm going to just slightly adjust this so it's in there. And now my drawing is done. At this point, I want you to go ahead and do a file save. Save all. I'm going to call this base underscore spacer underscore ball bearing, last name, and save. At this point, as soon as you're done, go ahead and print this. No need to staple your mask properties in there. I only want that for the final assembly. As soon as you have that print, please put it in the collection box and begin ready to work on the next video. Use this video to your advantage. Again, pause, rewind, go forward if you need to, but use it to your advantage to get this completed. It is due at the end of class. Good luck.